Good evening. Happy Monday. Welcome to TCB Studios. Welcome to Burn It Down. Shout out to our sponsor, Kelly's Death Pickles. Shout out to Jamie Bennett. Thank you for all your input and everything you do for our show. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving and holiday, a few days off, time to eat, hang out, catch up with friends and family, rest the brain, rest the body, decompress. Shout out to my assistant Dee. It was her birthday this weekend, and from what I hear, she had a good one. First things first, our guest tonight was supposed to be Panoria. She has not been feeling well, and we want to wish her nothing but a speedy recovery. Rest, please, Pan. Get well soon. And we can't wait to reschedule you and get you back on the show in the future. Next week is our final show of the season. We'll be talking to Jeffrey Butzer about his yearly Christmas show that he does with T.T. Mahoney. We'll come back in the middle of January with a whole new batch of tricks. But here's the fun thing. We always talk about this. It's TV. Things happen. Well, the show must go on. So tonight, I am the guest, and Renée Yaworsky, the producer and director behind the scenes, is the host, and she's going to be asking me a few questions. So let's do a little bit of a drum roll. Bucket of fish, bucket of fish. Renée Yaworsky.
Did you say bucket of fish, bucket of fish?
Bucket of fish, bucket of fish, bucket of fish. Well, you were a drummer in bands. Isn't that stuff? Yeah. You were a drummer in bands. First of all, I love it. We just jumped right in. We're so funny. I used to hear guys say that, and I thought they were saying something different. And it's like, wait, what are you saying? He goes, yeah. Anytime you do a drum roll, bucket of fish, bucket of fish, bucket of fish. So the cool thing is I know you're going to do that from now on.
I'm going to do it from now on, no matter if I'm playing the actual drums or if I'm introducing someone. Bucket of fish, bucket of fish. And
bucket
I can hear it too.
Bucket of fish. Yeah.
I love it.
So a couple of things. Yes, we want to send our biggest hearts and thoughts and positive vibes and prayers, whatever you got, all the good stuff to Pan. She was very sick. She just got out of the hospital. But we actually were texting earlier, and I said, no problem at all. You take care of yourself, and we'll get you back on the next season. How was your Thanksgiving and your holiday?
Everything is so good. It's excellent. I feel bad for so many people, though, in our community are sick with physical ailments. This time of year, too, I just want to make it clear that a lot of people do suffer from seasonal affect disorder. A lot of people suffer from isolation. They had like the Hallmark movies. Everybody's with their family. Everything's perfect. And so like if you're not, people get really despondent. So I just want to everybody out there, just reach out to somebody. Don't let people feel alone this time of year. And also don't fall into this social media thing. Like I was saying, I'm working on a lot of stuff. I'm getting a lot of stuff done. But at the same time, I want people to know, like, when you're checking into social media or you're watching television, everything looks so great. People only talk about the great shit, right? It creates this illusion that some people are really thriving and some are not. So I don't want to do that, and this holiday, just be careful too about how you portray yourself on social media. I know we're all insecure. We all want to talk about the great stuff that's going on. But at the same time, there's people out there that are really suffering. And it kind of, the contrast, if someone's going through a really tough time, that can hurt people. So I just want to make it clear. Everybody's got issues. We've all got issues. Don't fall into that social media bullshit where, people just post the good stuff.
Oh my goodness, I love this, and I love that about you because you're so thoughtful, and you have. I talk about you often, and I go this lady, this woman, this human that I know. She's got a heart the size of New Jersey. It's ginormous, and and you're absolutely right because a friend of mine made a wonderful post the other day, and I actually said, "Can I steal it?" Warren Bailey, shout out, and he's a wonderful human and an artist and musician, and he's had his ups and downs, and he was like, "Thank you for everyone that's been there for me," and I said, "Man, can I steal that?" He goes, "Of course, my brother," and I basically just said, "Thank you for everyone who's been there for me when I'm down. I hope I can pay you back when you need it," and then I think later on said, "I glad I sometimes say, well, I'm so glad I'm in a much better place these days than I have been in the past." And one thing I'm not doing is bragging because trust me, I've had my ups and downs
Yeah.
even recently.
Yeah.
But people have been there for me in the past when things were not good at all. And the funny thing is you're absolutely right because I had two different people who I haven't spoken to in a long time reach out to me via text. And one person said, "Man, love you, brother. Well, you inspire me, and you've been there for me, so thank you." And another was a girl, a girlfriend, a friend of mine that's a wonderful woman, and she reached out and she read it completely different, and she goes, "Hey, brother, it's been a minute. How you doing? Are you okay? I'm worried about you."
You see, you
So
see it either
so
way.
so it's this it's the telephone game, it's everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that. You and I, when we talk, we just jump right into this. And by the way, you're hosting this conversation, so you can say whatever you want
Well,
to me, but I
well,
appreciate it.
well, yeah, I love how you talk about you can see it either way. I did 14 years of death row prison work. I had my own NGO, my
Right.
own organ, and here, what I'll tell you is the reason I got into that was I wanted to be around the people who were the most isolated, the most despised. I wanted to know what would drive a person to do a horrible thing that they might have been accused of, and also how a person could endure in that type of situation. And I'll tell you that a lot of the things that I learned, I started when I was 14. So I was raised in a way by a lot of that death row culture. I am an expert
Unbelievable.
on that. And then I went to law school and I studied it, formally. And I'll tell you, one thing I learned about there's an indomitable human spirit that I
Oh,
want everybody to tap into. And I knew a death row prisoner who sponsored a child in Guatemala. Every single
oh my
month, he
goodness.
would scrounge up the money to send there. Okay. And what I want to say is that no matter what you're going through right now, and I'm just speaking to the audience, but I think Tom is a good person to have this conversation with and to be a platform for, is that no matter what you're going through right now, it's people who are struggling. Look, you can volunteer. There's always someone out there who has it worse than you. Look at Ukraine right now.
Oh my
Ethiopia is
goodness.
struggling
Yeah.
right now. There's people with mental illness problems. There's people in the hospital right now. If you're feeling isolated and you're feeling alone or down on yourself, find
Right.
an organization or find somebody. There's somebody who needs you
You're absolutely
desperately,
right.
and so reach out and do something. We're gonna, there's a lot of different things going on over the holidays, a lot of different like organizations that are coming together. There's different we're doing a Merry Christmas thing next Saturday. We're doing a whole festival there
Oh
uh,
wow.
for for Adopt a Family on SDF and Cosmos Television. Reach out, work it. There's shelters in your local town. If you don't want to be exposed to germs, there's all kinds of things online that you can do
Right.
with social media. So I just want to remind people of that. Like, there's always something you can do. And then you'll be introduced to other people who are interested in the
Right.
same things you are. So
Right.
I wanted to ask you, Tom, you talked about my big heart and all that. And I think that's the thing
Yeah.
you're noted for. I came into this conversation saying, I want to talk to Tom about, he's a soul singer. You're a
Yeah.
soul singer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where
I
does
tried
the
to be.
soul come into with your
Mm.
music? How are you able to do so? I mean, you're doing soul. And
Yeah.
how do you tap into that? And you're authentic every single performance, no matter how many
Mm.
people are there or not there. You put your all into it. And most performers will never do that. Freddie Mercury did that, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jackson
Totally.
did that. But there's very, very few people who actually do that. So where does that come from with you?
Oh my goodness. So, I've talked about it in a few interviews. My mom was an immigrant that came off the boat when she was just a couple of years old from South America, Chile, and we definitely. I think growing up in an area in New York where there's so many nationalities, growing up in a Spanish household, having and then being the grandson of a sailor. My grandfather, who I was named after, Thomas Kirkwood, was a pretty important, famous Chilean sailor. And so when he was in town in New York and he wasn't overseas, and he had friends of his with him, they were very worldly. They were poets and piano players, and very worldly, thoughtful artists and creative types. And I think that goes a long way when you're in your house and you're told. Taught it's always better to give than receive, and express yourself by hugging and kissing. Definitely very much an affectionate family, and then music always playing, and then us always singing. And then when I decided I wanted to get into it, and basically become better and better at it. Certainly some years, there certainly were some years I thought that I'd be this more of a famous musician for a living. And it wasn't until I realized that it not only has something to do with let's say someone's talent, because you and I look at the wonderful talent people we've met who do that on the side. And I realize it's timing, it's luck. There's so many things.
Yeah.
And the minute I said I'm cool with that, and basically formed my own business and started working hard and putting out my own art and doing my own paintings and putting out my own records, that's when I went from striving to thriving. And I said to myself, and trust me, I think there's many performances I've done that are really bad. Thank you for the compliment. But whether it's 2 people or 200, you give it your all. I wanted to thank you and say I'm proud of you and us and everyone involved for helping out the Ron Weber family a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
That was
that was
brilliant. It was brilliant, and it was a really, really such a good cause, and it's such a wonderful thing. Another really quick thing I just want to say is right before we started this, I got this beautiful Jesus and Mary candle that I had lit. And I'm such a New Yorker, I just knocked it off and almost set my office on fire.
Oh man, I
So
was going to notice that there was Our Lady of
yeah,
Guadalupe,
yeah,
Our Lady of
absolutely, yes.
Guadalupe right
So
there.
basically, I almost just set this place on fire, but I put it out while I was talking to you.
The
But
guardian
reality
angel
is
came.
they say you want to shut up a New Yorker, tie his hands behind his back, because but literally I knocked it over and I just saw flames, and with my hoodie I just knocked it out. So
I'm so glad that you're okay right now. I'm
me
very,
too,
very
and I'm
glad.
shocked the alarm didn't go off. And
Oh
I'm
my
shocked. I'm
gosh.
shocked the assistant who's in the other room hasn't come and said anything. But it's all going to be good. But
Look
no,
at the
I
performer
think
in you. I want everyone to notice that Tom almost set himself ablaze and he kept talking like there was no
I
issue.
did.
And
Yeah,
he kept going on live television. He's like, hey, the show's going on, man. I'm just going
the
to keep
show
talking.
must go on.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, there's so many things that come into play. I went from a marketing background to putting on live events, which led to commercials, which now led to I work behind the scenes in television, and so you see so many things. And there's so many things that I know because you're really smart that kind of disappoint you. But when you have a good heart and you're smarter than that and you're above all that, you kind of laugh. And you like, I remember one of my first big TV gigs, people were like, do not talk to the talent. And I'm like, it's a TV studio and there's a lady in there about to do the weather and she's going to read from a card. And the funny thing is I didn't talk to the talent, but she came over and talked to me and started talking to me, and she was like, oh, how you doing? And this and that, and I'm like, and you want to be like, I don't know, some of these people are nice. Some of them are cocky and they shouldn't be cocky. And,
Yeah.
and I don't see really much talent. I see within our community, we're doing so much talent, but you rise above it and you say, listen, I'm going to be the better man or the better woman, and community. And I talk about it a lot lately. Family, camaraderie, brotherhood, sisterhood. The friendship and the partnership and the teamwork and the business relationship you and I have.
Yeah.
I feel like I should teach classes on it one night a week and tell people you can succeed this way. Just
Yeah.
be easy to work with. And because I remember even when I started getting into the business I'm in now, someone believed in me, and it was Brian Kinchlow, who I love. And I was like, I've never done this, I've never
Mhm.
done this, and he was like, you're really positive. You're a team leader. You're a team player. You're really good at being communicative. He goes,
Yeah.
everything else you'll learn. He goes, there's guys who've been on the job 25 years who certainly know more than you, but they are, let's just say the word begins with a C and it ends with an NTS, you know?
Right, well, because you don't want to sit pretty. Here's the thing. Laurence Olivier took acting lessons his entire life. He never felt he was above it. Number two, Lindsay Lohan, so talented, but when she was becoming unpredictable, she could not get a job. She could not get hired.
Sure.
Marilyn Monroe,
Wonderful.
towards the end, could not get a job because you have to. No one can sit pretty and say, "Hey, I'm so talented that people will put up with
Right.
my behavior." If that's not true, it pays to be nice. They always say nice guys finish last. That is not true. Nice
It's not
guys do
true.
not finish
It's
last.
not
They
true.
finish first.
And the thing is too, is coming from New York, and I know you're a New Yorker as well, and you and I have given each other really awesome like hip hop quotes,
Oh yeah,
back and forth, and if a hip hop artist puts out a book, I read it. I've read Jay-Z's book, I've read the
Mhm.
Wu-Tang Clan book, I've read Ice-T's book. They're all wonderful because all these guys really, um, at least I feel, I mean, like Tupac wasn't a thug. He went to Juilliard, and he
Yeah.
was an actor and a
He was
performer.
an art
But
student. Yeah.
he was an art student, yeah. And so you got these guys who certainly they grew up in poverty and wanted and needed so much, and then they put on this performance on these two or three great rap records that tell these stories of the ghetto, but half of them maybe he didn't even see it, and then all of a sudden they're acting, and I'll tell someone in a meeting, I go, yeah, but they were acting on that record. The first two records they were acting, and they never want to be poor again. And so
Right.
I attack all my jobs that I get like I'm a rapper.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
my musical performances because that's something different, and most of them are for charity. But any
Mhm.
job I do, I'm like, listen, I've been poor before. I'm a rapper who's had no money because trust me, I've had no money, and I
Mhm.
like working, and I like having a little bit of money, and I hate having stress, and I
Yeah.
hate worrying about me not having things, and I hate worrying about loved ones I have needing things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And Tupac Shakur was a really, really nice guy. All of that was acting. And he even would say that in interviews. He would say,
Sure.
like, I'm an actor. And he was a great actor. And some of his movie roles, like in Juice or whatever, just like
Oh,
stand
they're
out.
so good. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
so good. But he was a
Uh,
nice person too. He was actually very nice. He helped a lot of people out, and
well, that's the
He
other
was a
thing. Yeah.
Gemini, and he would do the thing on stage, and then he would live. But that's just, it's entertainment too, and people also have to understand that people who are acting or are actors, they're putting their
Mhm.
passion in, but you don't have to take everything they
Right.
say realistically, which is why sometimes they
Right.
have court cases against musicians saying, "Well, your lyrics made me do this crazy thing," and it's
Right.
like, no, this is
Yeah.
art, you
You,
know.
you, you may have also saw Taxi Driver. Are you blaming that?
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
my brain works funny. The reason why I actually was saying that is because on Instagram I follow Two Chainz, who's an Atlanta rapper, and I don't even really listen to Two Chainz music, but I love his message. He
Mhm.
always gives out positive message once a day with his kids. He goes, listen, he goes, you have a baby, take care of that baby, stick with that mama, and provide and be a good man, go get educated. And one of my favorite ones is he says this often. He goes, I don't care how talented you are, hard work trumps talent every day of the week. He's like,
Yeah.
he goes, keep pushing, keep working, keep learning, and perfect that, sharpen that tool, sharpen what you're doing. And I'm manifesting that. I want to totally meet with him and chat with him about a couple of things because
Oh, man.
I really do appreciate his positive messages.
Yeah, and I actually really like him too. I'm blanking on the name of his song that I really love, but I like his style. I like the
Yeah,
type of style where
yeah,
it's more of a forceful but an interesting type of style. And I remember I would love to see you guys sit down. See,
yeah.
that's the thing. It's like good music transcends genre. good
Yeah.
music always transcends genre, you know, and it transcends culture and gender and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, Tupac always resonated with me when I was in high school. I came across
Yeah.
him and I just loved him. And people say, "Oh, that's weird," you know. It's like it's not weird. We're humans. He's appealing
It's
to
not
our
weird.
humanity.
Yeah. And he's got a cool voice. I mean, to be
Yes,
honest with you, I mean, like, I love Bob Dylan, but Tupac's got a way cooler voice than Bob Dylan. I'm sorry.
he
I
really
think
does. Yeah, he really
it's
does.
amazing. I almost started a fire, but we fixed it. And now we're talking about hip hop. I
Now
love
we're
it.
talking
I,
about hip hop, and I
we,
came in here wanting to talk to you about hip hop. That's why I wanted to ask you about soul, and I wanted to
yeah,
ask you about hip hop, and I wanted because you come across as somebody that honestly you could have gone into like Troy Moore, who's in our community. We love Troy Moore. He's a
so
musical
talented.
genius. He can go in and out of hip hop. He's like Becker.
Unbelievable.
He can go in and out of hip hop, and then he can go into like Beatles esque type stuff.
Incredibly talented. Whereas, I mean, I'm grateful for the talents that I have, but I'd say I'm a one or a two trick pony. He's like an 11 trick pony. That Troy Moore. I mean,
Troy
Troy
Moore is
Moore.
a thing.
He's unbelievable. Shout out Troy Moore, and just I think I'm having dinner with him and Johnny Thomas this week. Let's
Oh
manifest that.
gosh,
Yeah.
I've heard wonderful things about his in-person persona and
Oh, he's the
that
best.
he's
He's
the
so
same. He's authentic, right? And I
yes.
love him too. And now that brings me to my next question. I wanted to talk to you about because when you were talking about your upbringing and all that, and
Hmm.
your uncle being kind of a famous sailor, was it your uncle?
Hmm. My grandfather, Thomas Kirkwood, yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay, your grandfather.
funny enough, or not funny enough, I've been told that I was going to be named like Christian Michael, but he died on the date on his death date.
Mhm.
People know my age, but I'm not going to get too into it. On his death date, I was born exactly 1 year later on his death date. So his death date that he died, I was born on that death date, my birthday 1 year later, and they were like, "Well, no, we need to name him after you." And so you're Thomas, and he was Thomas, and he was a poet, and he played piano poorly, I may say, like me, and he was a bit of a ladies' man and a charmer and just a bunch of wonderful things that my mom was like, "Oh my goodness, I don't really believe in a reincarnation, but I think sometimes that you're him." You know.
That's amazing. Okay, see, but here's the thing. Here's what I wanted to ask you though. Like, so you have a lot of pride in how you're growing up. You're clearly a confident person. You can't get on stage and do what you do. I know you talked
Hmm.
a little bit in the past about I think it was your mother who helped you with performing early on. But
Hmm.
how do you walk that balance between confidence, which is needed to do what you're doing, but then slipping over into arrogance, right? How
Right.
do you do that? That is very hard to do.
Well, that's a very good question. And I will say that no matter what, I still, every time I play or whatever, the first 5 minutes or two songs or whatever, my eyes are closed and I'm scared to death. And then you realize, wait a minute, I'm doing something beautiful here that
Wow.
not a lot of people are doing. Let me just go for it. And then by the time you get 4 or 5 songs in, that's when you got to be careful because you're like, man, I know it. Some people are getting excited. You can get arrogant for a minute, and
Yeah.
you just got to stick with it and say there's a job to be done. And I do feel this way. I think it was Elvis Costello that said this. In an interview a long time ago when he said, he goes, "If I don't take myself seriously, how do I expect you to take me seriously?" So even if I mess up, I'll continue playing. I'm not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was out of tune, I messed up." No, that's what makes that art performance different than the others. Because if I say, "Oh, I messed up, I shouldn't have done this, I wasn't prepared, I was out all night, I didn't write down a set list, whatever," well, then you may be like, "All right, well, I don't need to see the next performance."
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
I take it so seriously and say the next 17 minutes, you 11 people or you 150 people, if it's a live show, 200 people, whatever it may be, or 4 people, you people are here. You deserve, it's a Buddhist way of thinking. It's like, well, like right now, for the next 6 minutes or 20 minutes that we speak, Renee, you're the most important person in my life for the next 20 minutes. And I love that. And the other thing I realized is I've said this before. I remember when I was flirting with new styles and performing, and maybe I'm playing on a Tuesday night at the Star Bar, and there is just a sound guy there and two people there. And I think I said something like, "Hey, I want to thank that big crowd for coming out tonight." And the sound guy was like, that's not cool. You disrespected those two people. You should say, no, thank you to those two people coming out tonight. I was being sarcastic and sardonic and thought it was funny saying, oh, man, we got a packed house tonight. And clearly there wasn't. And that's not fair to those 4 or 5 people that came and spent the $6 and really wanted to see it. So once again, focus in and just say, you people are the most important thing in my life for the next 45 minutes. I just read the other day, and it's certainly a way that I feel. But certainly I'm not a guy who performs for 2 hours. If I'm with a band, I can perform between 50 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. I don't think I've ever performed for 2 hours, and I don't think I ever will. When I play live myself, doing poetry and the keyboard, just maybe 30 minutes, 35. But point is it was a quote from Tom Petty, and he said, if people forget about the menageries and the pains and the struggles and the job for 2 hours when I performed, then I did my job.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's what we're trying to do. I think that's what you're doing with this wonderful station. It's giving people this escape, and also you're giving them an outlet saying, you want to join a cool team, you have an idea for a show, but also tonight we probably have a few people watching us. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
It's an amazing gift, right? To have anybody to come out, because most people will do whatever they do and nobody else will ever see it. So the idea that we actually can make that impact. And earlier you were talking about fame, and I wanted to say, a good-hearted person cares about fame because they care about impact. They want their message to be heard. And the good news is now with the internet, you can have more impact. Oh, yeah, he didn't though. We're all safe.
I didn't, but we're good. I just knocked it over. We're good.
The guardian angel swooped in, but you can have more impact. The irony is that you can have more impact today, possibly, even just by the numbers, than someone who was quote unquote famous like 100 years ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I also think, I'm certainly grateful. I watch a lot. I love watching films, and I love having conversations over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with friends, or a glass of wine. And I've said, well, up until a few years ago, Philip Hoffman. My goodness, so grateful for Philip Seymour Hoffman as an actor. Joaquin Phoenix, so grateful for him as an actor. I'm so glad. For what they do, because I love their art and I love their work in films, but not for 1 minute would I want to trade lives with them. Actually, my heart breaks. They don't seem like the happiest people, and it's like there's this wonderful thing, and certainly there's musicians that have inspired me that I'm so grateful for them as well, for what they do, and because I've been in certain situations, I've been lucky and fortunate to have met some of my musical heroes and artist heroes. And it's wonderful when they're nice and you realize they're just down to earth and they don't even want to talk about that. They want to talk about motorcycles and cars and fishing. I think fame can be a really gross thing. And so for me, my view is like, you gotta do things for the right reasons, and if something wonderful happens to you and the whole world hears about it, that's great. But like sticking to that loyalty and that having that humility, and then basically and also doing it for the right reasons. Like I just listened to this other great interview with this artist Walter Schreifels, who I'm a fan of in New York, and he's done well, but basically he has to tour 9 months out of the year to not have a job, and that's hard work. And really so hard. people know who he is, but he said he goes, let you people know there is absolutely no money in what I do. He goes, I had to move outside of New York City to live upstate New York because it's a lot cheaper. And he goes, but the good thing that comes out of it is, he goes, any piece of art or music that I put out, he goes, I know I'm not going to make money on it, so I am hands down doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And it's to put out a great, because I'm not thinking, oh, this one song is going to get me more hits or more attention. And so for me, like on the music that I'm working on lately or anything I'm working on, I'm like, well, I hope people who have similar passions as I do, and people who think the way that I do, or people who know my stuff already, uh, they'll appreciate it. And if you get a few more people on top of that, that's great, you know. But
Yeah.
I mean, doing it for the right reasons is just so important, and that's why I love everything that you're doing, and just this whole channel. I mean, Cosmos, I think, has just been. We've talked about it. I think it's so wild the way like life can be like these things come, and the next thing you know, it's like this,
Yeah.
you know, this bicycle that comes together, and now it's got 20 seats on it, you know,
Yeah.
or they're riding next to each other, you know, or they're wave runners that meet, and then they're going out to say, let's go out to sea, or just, you know. But the thing is like it because of what happened in the world, and because you met someone like Dennis Tardon, and because you met so and so here, and because you met so and so here, and then you and I connected.
Yeah.
These things that, because of all these 11 things, this beautiful things happening, and now it's a machine. And I know you work so hard, but there's still, even when you go to sleep at night, there's still this machine going,
Yeah,
and
it's still going.
it's growing. Yeah, and I absolutely love that.
And what I love about this community too is the having a global artist community. Fame is really one of those things, like it's so hard, like even people who become wildly famous usually dip back down again, right? Because it's a very fickle market. So you
Sure.
have people, so like if you have an artist community like Hollywood or here or at Cosmos, you're having people on the ascent, you're having people who are here, and you're having people on the
Right.
descent, and then you're having people cycling through that project is here, and now that project is over. Now they're doing
Right.
another project, because fame is kind of something, it's not really that sticky. It's but your character is sticky, and your dignity, like you're saying, doing it for the right
Right.
thing. And you can never
Yeah.
predict the market either. So if you're writing songs that you think are going to be popular, you're just wasting your time. You'll never ever
Right.
know it. You're just imitating something that was
Right.
popular 8 months ago. It's probably passe by the time
Right.
you would even be able to duplicate that.
That's a really good point. I mean, because I've worked with some major labels before, and it's like, so, and we've seen it so much. Like, so when, let's say, in the '90s, when a band like Pearl Jam came out, they
Yeah.
found 5 bands that sound like Pearl Jam, put them out, and it's like,
Yes.
so think about this: if you're trying to write a song that's like that, don't you realize that there's businessmen who are clueless already doing this? So you might want to just try to do your own thing, so at least you may be part of the next thing.
Right. No, that's so true. I think that that's a perfect way of stating it. My next question that I have for you is I want you to name three big moments in your life, like
Mm,
three big moments that you come back to a lot. And if you were to, JP was asking when you're going to write your memoir. And of course, I think we all
mm.
love for
Well,
that. So that's another question as well, is if you're going to write your
well,
memoir. I'm assuming you will, but
Well, I remember, you know, like we were kind of this musical family. I mean, you know, I had to sing and perform for the neighbors, and I remember doing like Michael Jackson impersonations when I was like 13 or 14 years old, and then looking over at my older brother, like after I did my performance, and he was just with an acoustic guitar and did the Beatles, Rocky Raccoon, and it was just huge for me. And it was like, I know I'm a halfway decent dancer, but what am I doing dancing? I need to be, I need to get near an instrument, and I need to be um, learning. And our brains are sponges, and so let's get them soaking wet. And that's pretty much when I started diving into music, and it was like. Certainly he turned me on to the Beatles and the Who. The Who was huge, and the Rolling Stones. And then he had his own band, so I heard them making their own music, and that's what got me wanting to, I guess you'd say, be a creative and create my own melodies and energies. So that was really huge, you know. And then so many things happened in between there, and there are other moments, but I think I've talked about it with someone in our group, you know, it might have been Lars, you know, but when I first started like wanting to figure out songs, you know, as simple as they are, and we've talked about this, music is poetry and math, at least it is to me. And you tell the story, and there might be a simple verse, a simple chorus, simple verse, simple chorus, guitar solo, and the song with two choruses, whatever. And I remember when I realized, wait a minute, you've been overthinking this thing. Just tell your story, and at the end, give yourself this little piece of closure, or whatever that you think it is, and like for instance, I do it from time to time on piano, but I used to do it in a full band. And I'd talk about, I go by the old place, the other one I lived in years ago. I barely recognize if there are bars on the windows. I go and get a drink with this guy named Ruben. We talk about the neighborhood and where it is going. I mean, I know things change, but in my face is getting worse. I see the mailman, and I know inside he hurts. And that was like, I thought, my first great piece of poetry to a song. And my sister heard it, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, you're talking about Anthony's dad." And I go, "Yes," because Anthony on our block in New York, his dad was a mailman, and the poor guy just always looked miserable. And in New York, you don't drive a mail car. You
Yeah.
just push, well, you just push a cart and you deliver mail. And Anthony's dad, he just looks so sad. And she goes, "Why do you think he's so sad?" And I go, "Well, one, he's Anthony's dad, and Anthony's a horrible kid." I go, "Two, and he's always like delivering like mail. He's delivering bad news, like whatever." And I'll never forget it. And I was playing a show in Florida, and some kid came up to me, and he had the lyric tattooed on his arm, and he goes, "You wrote this lyric." He goes, "I see the mailman, and I know inside he hurts." And he lifted up his shirt. And I go, "Yeah, I wrote that when I was a kid." And that was this huge moment for me. And he goes, "Is it because he's always delivering bills?" And I go, "Yeah, it's because the mailman's he hates that he's just
Yeah.
delivering bad news." And that was like, that's happened a few times, and it's mind chilling, and braille, and the arm hairs go up, and you're like, "What?" This thing that I wrote, maybe with, drinking port wine and acting silly and falling down the back porch, turned to this thing that affected some kid who's talking to me about, yeah, the mailmen have a rough job. They're always delivering bad news. And so that was really, really huge. And then the third thing was right before I the pandemic. My brother Scott, who's a writer, did a show in New York called Words Kill Queens, in the oldest bar in Queens, New York, where we both read our poetry, and then I performed and did some songs. And I did that. I was going to do that song, and you know how it is. You see people and you think you recognize them, but you
Yeah.
don't. And I'm walking out of the restroom. I think I went to the restroom, threw some water on my face, and this guy looks at me, he goes, "How you doing?" Whatever. And I'm like, "How you doing, man? Good to see you," and this and that. And I'm thinking, did I do something wrong? This person, he's being really, really nice. Is he a fan, or is that whatever? And I'm like, "Nice to see you. How you been?" And we are chatting for like 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, the way the light looks at me in this bar in Queens, the oldest bar in Queens, which basically had a light here and like a slit sign over a pool table. It was like a total dive. And I look at my brother Scott in the corner, and I go, "Is that?" And I go, and it was the guy Ruben that I wrote the lyric. I go and get a drink with this guy named Ruben. We talk about the neighborhood and where he's going. I haven't seen the guy since I was 12 years old. He's a school teacher in Queens, New York, married with kids. And he's like, "Yeah, I've been following you for years. I love everything you do." I was like, "You're the guy Ruben in that song." He goes, "What?" I go, "I'm doing that song tonight." And basically that was huge.
That's
Hadn't
a
seen
big
him,
deal.
hadn't seen the guy in like 35 years, something like that.
What are the chances? Like, what do you make
It
of
was
stuff like that? Do you believe in things like destiny and kismet and
I
karma? Like,
do. I do. Well, we talk about that as well. I don't really think I'm religious, but I'm spiritual. But these days, actually, I'm getting older. I'm starting to think I'm a bit religious again.
yeah.
And I certainly am superstitious, and I certainly do believe in good stuff, and I believe in karma's coming around, and the good karma, hopefully, and I believe in fates. And we after that show, I mean, me, Ruben, and my brother Scott basically closed the bar down. I mean, they stayed open late. I think they kicked us out at like 5 in the morning. We were just drinking beers and talking, drinking, having to, and just catching up, talking about how's your mother, how's this, how's your brother, and it was just like, it was just tremendous joy. It was a slice of heaven.
That's amazing. That is so amazing. I love when stuff like that happens. And you were talking about how you always talk about yourself in terms of maybe being a storyteller. And Corey Lynn
Yeah,
Green just walked in, and she's an amazing storyteller.
I love Corey Lynn Green. Shout out to Corey
Shout
Lynn,
out
and
Corey Lynn.
she is
Yeah.
shining, and her striving paid off because she is thriving right now.
I mean, her new single arrangement just
Amazing.
it's a story song. But you're a storyteller too. Of course, your brother is also a novelist,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
there's something in your DNA. But do you? This is something I think about a lot, and people talk to me about a lot because I struggle with. I'm a storyteller in that I write literal stories, but then when I'm doing my lyrics, it's very rare for me to be able to do a story in my lyrics. I tend to be more out there and more a little weird, but I'm
Right.
trying to learn how to do linear stories like Corey Lynn Green or like, I'm Not Messing Around to me is an amazing
Oh,
story song as well. I mean,
yeah,
that's just
and that's a true
brilliant.
story. That's a true
Right.
story. But like it's but also, I'm a believer in, as well as, like, take it very seriously, but sometimes don't take yourself too seriously, because I think great writers, it's okay to have a little bit of that self-deprecating
Yeah.
thing inside the back of their mind, like, for instance, saying, look at me, like, and saying, look at me and my hair, it's beyond repair, like, like you're like, but the line before that, you were saying, please don't ever leave me again, and you're on your hands and
Mhm.
knees crying,
Yeah. There you
so
go.
I think it's like, if you can, and the best thing is who knows if we're great at it yet. You're just trying to always every day perfect it and have that perfect balance. And if you can do that, I mean, you're going to be happy with the stuff you put out, and you're going to get results from at least the people that know you, who are going to be honest. And whether it's a
Yeah.
small fan base, or a small fan base, or a big fan base, I mean,
Hmm.
and that's the thing, there's a great podcast called The Drunken Aquarium that I've been
Oh,
loving
that
listening
sounds
to.
cool.
I'll send you, and I listened this morning on my way to work, to listen to this interview with Kid Congo Powers, who is a huge, what he's done for the gay community is amazing. But he played with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, the Gun Club, and the Cramps. So three amazing bands who were very much like underground, like subculture bands. But he talked about when he was in the Cramps, they said, we only relate to anyone that's like an alien or a true nonconformist. And when he
Ah,
said that, I was like, I know what he's saying,
yeah.
because Renee's not gonna write because someone says you're gonna get 20 more fans if you write like this. Like,
No.
don't ever conform. Like,
Yeah.
write
Don't conform.
with your heart, your brain, behind your eyes, and most importantly, your crotch and your gut. Your gut
Yeah.
tells you right, and
That's
that's what you
very
gotta follow.
important, is being authentic to yourself. So that's like
Yeah.
that's, and I think that when you were talking, I realized that that's one of the things that knits together the artist community is that we're all nonconformists,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
like
I
all
mean,
the
it's
misfits,
a
all
one.
the outcasts, all the weirdos, right? And then we find another weirdo and you say, wow, I'm not the only
Yes.
one.
Right. I found one of me. I found one of us. It's a wonderful group of beautiful, proper weirdos,
Yes.
and seeing everyone. I mean, and that's why we do what we do, and that's why I have my notes and want to give Jamie Bennett a shout out, because we appreciate everything she's done for us. Another shout out to Jamie, and I know she's extremely talented with so many great ideas, and I send her notes to be, want um, you want to encourage your friends, because she mentioned the other day she went to a show and she wants to write and do
Yeah.
reviews, and I'm like, yeah, you got this. You're so talented. Please go
Yeah,
for it.
she's
Do that.
she's another multifaceted. I've noticed
Yeah.
this too, like, because I talked about your storytelling, and then also, you were dancing, and of course you do the TV stuff, and you're a show host now, but you're a lyricist, you're a singer, you play piano, you drumming, you do all kinds of stuff, right? I haven't even listed
Mhm.
half of them. Do you think there's
Yeah.
something something about a creative soul that it can transfer into multiple different disciplines?
Yeah, I do. And it also can be dangerous because the most
Mm.
creatives are very smart in one area, but there's other areas that are lacking. Like I have genius friends who are dyslexic, and that's okay. I suffer from ADHD, and I know for a while my therapist would say, uh, "You're going to try to do 10 things, and you're not going to get one of them done. Do the
Mhm.
one thing, get that done, then move on to the next." But lately, I've been in a really good place, and I know how to balance it, and I'm super excited about it, So, but the minute I know that if I can't and I need to just concentrate on one thing, I will. That's the other thing is, we're told our whole lives like know your strengths, and that's important. But I
Yeah.
think it's just important, if not more important, to know your weaknesses. So
Oh, yeah.
once I know them, and I love uncharted waters. Work on a song, with someone like Mako Fumi, who was so great, but
Oh, man, he's
I never,
amazing.
yeah, I never did anything like that before. And I was like,
Yeah,
yes, I can do this. But then all of a sudden, if other things are suffering and you're not getting
yeah,
all this stuff, you got to go, wait a minute. Okay, let's pull
yeah.
that wave, run it back in. Let's focus. And then we need to do this. And let me just concentrate on this, you
Yeah.
know?
I think that's why so many artists are extremely prolific and then they kind of hide out a while and then they come back and they'll be prolific and then they hide out. It's almost like there's a hibernation you have to go through because you can't just you there's only 24 hours in a day and people
That's a
can
great
burn
thing.
themselves out and you spread yourself so thin that you're not getting anything accomplished because you do have to eat, you do have to sleep, you do have
Yeah.
to do some self-care stuff and that's another thing that burns out some of the artists. One of the things that we know artists it can happen is addiction, mental
Big
illness
time.
again,
Big time.
and then physical burnout too, where you're not sleeping because you're in the middle of a project, you want to get it done, you're addicted to that craft, and it's a good
Yeah.
thing to be that and to focus, but then it can have that tipping point where okay, I'm not bathing, I'm not sleeping, I
Right.
haven't eaten in
Yeah.
days.
I look horrible. Yeah. Yeah. And I also have what's the nice way of saying it? Um, well, I'm an extremist, so it's all or nothing, and I have an
Yeah,
addictive personality.
me
So
too.
that's not the best. I mean, at a young age, I definitely enjoyed sniffing markers and paint and glue. I
Yeah.
like my brain. I like my brain feeling crazy. Because of your suggestion, I watched that Bruce Springsteen Howard Stern interview, and the
Me
thing about
too.
his dad
Me
was
too.
wonderful, wonderful. But Bruce talks about it. He's like, "Listen, I don't care who you are." He goes, "You're doing this many days in a row." He goes, "Your body, your inside's not working, you're not sleeping well."
Yes.
He's like, and you need to recharge this. He goes, I don't care even if you're a mess, it's still the best, job in the world. But he was real humble about it. And no, something's gonna fall and suffer,
Yes.
you know, what
There's no
because
way around it. Yeah.
you're killing yourself and killing your body every night. You're not
Yeah.
eating right. You're not sleeping in the
Mhm.
same place. It's there's a
Yeah.
lot of negatives that go with it. I mean, my days of touring are over. I mean, I'm playing a show in New Jersey on December 9th and Philadelphia on December 10th. Anyone in Jersey or Philly, hit me up. But I'm super excited to get on the road. But I'm playing 2 shows and I'm gonna be out of town for 4 days.
Right.
Um, and the most I'll probably do is fly out west in the spring and maybe play like 4 or 5 shows in LA and San Diego. But my days of touring, going on the road for weeks, are behind me. No way. I can't do it. And my
Yeah.
hats off to people who can do it. It's
Well, well, I wanted to ask you this. Okay, this is another age-old question. And I want you to weigh in on it. Okay, so Taryn, somebody does creativity necessarily have to build on disorder? You know how they always say, like
right.
the struggling artist, you have to suffer, you have to
Um,
you
it's a
starve
great.
yourself of sleep, you got to go into the drug abuse, all that. Does that stuff
Yeah.
actually make you more creative, or does it stifle some of your creativity for you
Another,
specifically?
another great question, and we all know there's no right or wrong answer to stuff. Well, I'd say certainly playing certain types of music, let's say, and if you're just writing the music, I wouldn't think so. But I do know wonderful stories and songs have come out of sadness. I mean, you know, um, you know, uh, we've talked about this before, like why do the most beautiful ones have cracks in them, but then Leonard Cohen said, you got to have the cracks, that's where the light comes in, and it's
Love
like,
Leonard Cohen.
yeah,
Oh my
it's
gosh, he's
so lovely to find that beauty in there. um I I live a pretty happy life these days. I still have my ups and downs and get depressed. But for the most part, I live a really, really good life, and I'm happy. And I just surround myself with nothing but love, lovely, beautiful, encouraging people that try to build me up and never tear me down. So, but
Yeah.
there's been times in my life where I wasn't. I wasn't as smart, and I certainly hung around people that maybe didn't do that for me, or maybe me myself, I chose not to,
Yeah.
and I found myself in some dark places. I love some of the songs that came out of it. You know, Simple song like "Not Messing Around" is a dark song, but also it feels like it's full of like hope for me. And
Wow.
so you know, I I I think it's every person is different. And I also know that there are artists that have written beautiful songs, and because they were a mess and they were on things, they were
Yeah,
on
that's true.
certain sort of stuff. But then also they cleaned themselves up and they led beautiful sober lives, and then they wrote something that was even more wonderful.
Right.
So I don't think you have anyone who says you have to be messed up to write something, that I would disagree with.
Yeah, and you touched on something really great about your social circle, who you choose to keep around you. You can
Yeah,
tell a lot about someone by who their friends are, right? There's 8
yeah,
billion people on the planet right now, guys. So
yeah, yeah.
if you are not thriving in your social circle, I beg you, please go
Right.
find, it's so easy to find someone else now with the
Yeah,
internet and everything like that. Um, we
yeah.
have we had 2 people asking when and where in Philly you're going to be. We have
I'm
some
gonna be
interest.
playing at Dobbs on South Street. Hit me up. It's I know it's like 4 doors down from Tattooed Moms. I lived in Philadelphia for about a year in 2018. I still lived in New York, but I was building a TV station, and I've gotten to know some wonderful people there, and I've played there a lot. And it is a fun town. So if you guys are in Philly, hit me up. Yes, Saturday, December 10th, and it is going to be as the kids say, it's going to be a toe tapper.
I love that. Okay, I got one more
Bug,
question
bug,
for you.
bug,
I
bug,
got one
bucket
more
of, bucket,
bucket of fish,
bucket of
bucket
fish,
of fish,
bucket of
bucket of
fish,
fish.
bucket of fish, bucket of
Okay.
fish.
If people are coming in late, they have no idea why we're doing it. Just hit the replay and go to the
That's right.
beginning. You'll see what you said.
Go to
I
the
have a
top.
question.
Yes. And by the way, I just realized the show is called Burn It Down, and I almost burnt it down.
Literally at yeah, about 1/3 of the way in, y'all. You're gonna
Look at
see.
my sunglasses. They're just all wax all over it. That's
Oh
cool.
man, that
Yeah,
was it was Our Lady of Guadalupe who came in
that's
and
right.
and saved
Listen,
it.
I'm
So
getting religious for you, Renee.
yeah, you should. I think it's beautiful. Okay, so my last
There.
question is bucket list. What's on Tom Cheshire's bucket
Oh
list?
my
What do you
goodness,
have to do?
that's a great question. Well, it's not jumping out of an airplane, that's for sure. But I'd say Iceland. Iceland has been on my bucket list for a minute, and
Me too. Me
and
too.
I, well, you can come with us if you want. I've
Let's
been
do
asked
it.
to play. I've been asked to play some solo shows in Berlin next year,
Oh
and
wow.
Iceland Air offers you this thing where you basically fly to Iceland first, and then you go to Berlin, and basically it's the plane ticket's like nothing.
What?
So I
What?
think
That's so
we're trying
weird.
to
I
it's
love that.
just to get people to go to Iceland. And then again, I mean, I remember my grandfather, the stories that I heard that he talked about, because like I said, he died on his death day. A year later was my birthday. But sometimes you feel like you hear him, but he was this famous world traveler and world sailor. But India has been on my list, huge on my list. I want
Oh
to I
wow.
want to go to I want to go to India, rent a motorcycle, and just ride on the beaches for weeks. And let's see what else. Well, what's funny is because I love we try to bring up Ukraine because we should, and I performed a lot of places, and I feel really, really lucky, Germany, Amsterdam, fun places, but I want to play places that are going through a horrible time, like
Yeah.
and that are going through wars and stuff.
Yeah.
So I want to play music for the people. Go to Ukraine
Mhm.
and show them the best time, and that Tom Petty thing, like basically hug them and say, hey, for an hour, let's have you not think about what you've been through the past year.
Paul McCartney's done that. Bono's done that. It's a
Yeah,
big deal, and it does so much as a cultural ambassador and to bring people
yeah,
together and to show attention. I mean, I'll go with you. I'll go with
I
you. I'll
love
help you
it.
translate.
Well,
I've been
listen,
trying to get in there.
a little birdie, he was an old lady at the supermarket, told me one of your bucket lists is that you would love to play on stage with me. So we're gonna
Yes,
make it happen. We're gonna we're
I
gonna make
love
it
that
happen.
lady. I love that lady. I hope you bought her
Yeah.
a turkey or
Listen,
something.
I love that lady too. I love
Okay.
old ladies. I love that's the thing. I love everyone.
Yeah.
This is my advice. Life is too short to let anyone
Yeah.
let anyone live rent free in your head, to be
Mm-mm.
mad or hate anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm having dinner with my ex-wife in 2 weeks. Life is
Mhm.
too short
Do it.
for
Do it.
anything, like anything angry. If it messes you up and you're upset about it, take a walk around the block, go for a swim, jump on that wave runner, punch a punching bag.
Yeah.
Life is too short for all of it. I mean, love is all around.
Yeah,
And
it's
and
energy, and you can convert that energy to your art or into volunteerism or into loving somebody else. Like
right.
all of that anger, you can translate it into good experiences. You have that power, you know.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, you have that power too, and Rory's gonna be proud of us. This is the longest the show has ever
I'm
been.
so sorry.
John
Listen,
Phipps is
Butzer,
get- John
Jeffrey
Phipps is like, I
Butzer,
want to do an hour interview. Yes, we'll do that next
Jeffrey
season.
Butzer. But
Next week is Jeffrey Butcher. We'll talk about his Charlie Brown Christmas show. Next season, we got so many cool guests that are lined up to come on the show. We're gonna get Pan back, and we're sending nothing
yes,
but love and positive vibes to her.
yeah.
I'm gonna get Mudcat on the show. We're gonna get a
Oh
bunch of
my
cool people
gosh,
on the show.
Mudcat.
Yeah,
Oh my,
and
I love him.
so many other cool people that I know that have way more interesting lives than me, that I've known over the years, and we've reconnected. And I'm like, man, I got this little show that I'd love to share some of your stories. And they're like, I'm in. So I think January and February is going to be some really exciting months.
I love it. And then Jeffrey Butzer, he has at the Earl. Do you want to talk a little
Yeah,
bit about what's coming
yeah,
up?
he's going to be. I think he's doing.
Christmas.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's this is the 15th year in a row he's done it, and it has grown.
He's
It
Mr.
started
Christmas.
off. He does Charlie Brown Christmas, and they have the film playing behind them on the stage, and they have a live jazz band performing, and it's wild. It sells out. It started off one night, now it's 4 nights, and they do a kids show. So it's gonna be the Earl and the one for kids at Waller's. I'll put up the information, and then Jeffrey and I will talk about it next week. But the other cool thing is it's fun. Like we went last year, me, Dee, and Cassie, and you got like grown people wearing like Charlie Brown, like Snoopy sweaters and stuff, and just with like Christmas lights on them, and just enjoying it in the moment, and being like, listen, holidays can be fun. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be about feeling guilty you don't have a lot of money. Just
yeah,
go. I mean,
yeah,
it was. I mean, I wasn't even drinking last year, for like the whole month of December. I just mentally wanted to prepare for some other things. I went to
yeah.
the show, was drinking waters, I had to take a Sprite. Next thing you know, we're on stage dancing with the band. It was amazing.
That's so awesome. Everybody who's going to be down there has to, if you're down in Georgia anywhere, please go.
Yeah,
And like he said, next week, tune in on Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern,
yeah.
and he's going to talk to Jeffrey and they're going to
Yeah,
go on. Great.
Boots and I have so much fun. I mean, we really he wants to at some point and get you involved. Is basically one Saturday night a month or something at the Earl, actually do a live talk show where we have people in the
Yes.
audience and we interview people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen,
We got to
the
do
world
it.
the world is our oyster. I mean,
Why not?
I have a feeling, I have a good feeling you got some great things coming up.
Yeah.
I still have some ideas about my workout show.
Yes,
Let's work it out.
let's
Let's work
work
it
it
out.
out. Let's work it out. Let's do it a little bit maybe over the holidays. We can do at least
I mean,
one episode. That'd be so
I'm
fun.
gonna be like, listen, how you guys doing? How was work today? Just with the bell, everything good? You guys doing all right?
And I'll
And
have like
listen,
the weights.
and just say some encouraging things.
Yeah, there you go. No, it's so fun. That's why Richard Simmons was so popular. He made it
He
fun
was
and
awesome.
community. And oh, come on, let's do one within the next month or so, just to just work it out. Let's do it.
You got it.
All right.
Let's look at the calendar. And thank you for having me as your guest on Burn It
I
Down.
did it. I got to host on Burn It Down. I'm like the Joan Rivers when Johnny Carson
Yeah,
was
you're
on.
so
It's
great.
great.
And
I loved it.
I'm so glad we metaphorically burned it down, but I'm glad we didn't literally burn down the kitchen.
Everybody go back to the beginning and watch it. I'm going to go back and watch it because Tom keeps talking as if nothing happened.
Yeah, this
He's such a
flame, like
pro.
my
He's
my
such a
my
pro.
arm went on fire. I was like, "What's going on here?"
I didn't even see it, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna watch, and I'm gonna die laughing
Oh my
because it's.
goodness.
But he's safe, right? You didn't get burned, right? You are
Everything is
safe.
good. The alarm didn't go off. Everyone's cool. And
All right.
listen,
Love you.
love,
Thank you for letting me
love
be
you.
here. Okay.
Bucket of fish, bucket
Bucket
of fish,
bucket
bucket
of
of
fish,
fish, bucket
bucket
of
of
fish.
fish.